of encouragement because of some of the things that are going on here recently. As I was campaigning in 2008, I traveled over 40,000 miles in a little over 12 months, most of that in the coach seat of the commercial airlines, going to all kinds of rallies, big and small, from coast to coast and from border to border. And one of the things that I've seen happen in the last several months that I think has built upon what we saw at the end of 2008 was and is a resurgence of 10th Amendment understanding that the real power and authority in this country vested with the responsibility of preserving and protecting the freedoms and the liberties that you and I all cherish is the states. The independent, autonomous, sovereign states of this country. Now, with that in mind, I want to make a statement. What is going on in Panama City, Florida, is more important than what is going on in Washington, D.C. It is the local states and governments of the states that have, under the Constitution, the authority to protect and preserve the freedoms and the liberties that we all cherish. Let me give you some examples. A few months ago, the state I just alluded to that I just came from, the state of Montana, passed legislation and was signed by the governor of that state, a Democrat, by the way. The name of the legislation is the Firearms Freedom Act. How many of you are familiar with this? Ah, very good, very good. The Montana Firearm Freedom Act basically says this: any firearm that is manufactured in Montana, it is sold in Montana, it is purchased in Montana, is exempted from the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution. Therefore, all laws and restrictions of the federal government regarding the manufacturing and the sale and the purchase and possession of that firearm is of no concern to the federal government. Well, since Montana passed that bill, the state of Tennessee passed it. And now that I just read in WorldNet Daily today, the governor of Alaska just signed the Alaska version of the Firearms Freedom Bill, and that became the 8th state in the union to pass its own version of the Firearms Freedom Act. Now, a representative, a state legislator in Georgia, our neighboring state to the north, is taking it a step further, and I love this. He says in his bill, and it's now working its way through the legislature in Georgia, even as we speak, he said, look, any product manufactured in Georgia, sold in Georgia, purchased in Georgia, is exempt from the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution and therefore is of no concern to the federal government. Oh, listen, this is exciting. We are living in exciting times. You know, I'm a student of history, and I really believe that the times in which we live today parallels the time of colonial America, when the birth of freedom was first breathed by our forebears in this country. I think the analogy is very, very similar. What we find happening today is so similar